Yes, a very good afternoon to you tuned into UBC TV. Welcome to our lunchtime news this Wednesday, the 21st of April 2021. My name is Michael Jordan Lukomwa. In our first story this afternoon, the National Executive Director of NIRA, Brigadier Stephen Kwiringira, has hailed the Minister for Information and National Guidance, Judith Nabakoba, for the extending IT services to their regional offices. Kwiringira says that this has eased the process of capturing and issuance of national IDs plus other documents to Ugandans. The Minister for ICT, the Honorable Nabakoba, in company of UBC's Deputy Managing Director, Maurice Mujisha, was on a working tour of the Eastern Uganda, where she visited some UBC installations, met with media groups in Tororo and Bali, plus the Busia border post. We have details to the story.
The above improvements, Honorable Minister, imply that the many clients who had to travel to the NIRA Kororo headquarters no longer need to do so. And this has tremendously reduced the numbers of people that used to flock to Kororo. We now handle 150 persons per day on average, down from the high 500 or so in the past. Honorable Minister, at an opportune time this afternoon, my technical team here will be able to demonstrate to you how our operations have been improved by the connectivity. Honorable Minister, we wish to reiterate our appreciation to the government for this ICT support. As NIRA, we pledge to utilize the infrastructure provided by government to deliver our much needed and critical services.
And remember, when we talk about an ID, it's an identification card. That is the way a person can identify themselves, that they are Ugandans, they are from Umbale, from a certain village, you know. That information is very critical, and now, even coming to access of some government services, you may realize that ID will be very crucial for somebody to access probably treatment, for somebody to access vaccination. Right now there is flexibility, but going forward, everybody must have a national ID.
The Honorable Judith Nabakoba, Minister for ICT and National Guidance. A police report indicating a rise in the cases of sexual violence, mainly against children, continues to raise dust, especially among child rights activists and policy makers. Ethics and Integrity Minister, Reverend Father Simon Lokodo, says that it is regrettable that such situation exists because it's bad for the country's image.
In the 2020 police crime report, would-be protectors of children have turned out to be the perpetrators. The report showed that cases of defilement and incest were the most reported, with guardians, parents and teachers topping the list of perpetrators. The police report indicates that out of the 14,134 defilement cases, 301 children were defiled by suspects who were HIV positive. The perpetrators included 120 guardians, 120 parents, and 55 teachers. In trying to find out the community experiences as far as child abuse is concerned, we visited Naguru, a state suburb, and indeed, residents here shared their experiences. The LC3 woman councillor-elect for Naguru 2 parish, Asiro Florence, shares a story of a 12-year-old girl who was defiled and impregnated by her own father.
To know this story because I was going back to give thanks to my voters who give me a vote, but I get a report, someone told me that, do you know this, your voters went back to the village because the father pregnanted the girl, now they went back to the village. Then I feel very sad.
Even boys have not been spared. Dennis Onyoti, the chairperson for Naguru 2, also shares a story of a 12-year-old boy who was sodomized by a neighbor.
The boy was sleeping with another man who is a neighbor. You get the point? Not with the parent. So it is that man who is also a born again. In fact, the man is a born again. I want to be very honest with that. he picked that boy from their family. I like the boy, let the boy sleep in my house. So the man started accommodating the boy. Kumbe, he was turning the boy into a woman at night, until it was discovered by the teacher from school. When the boy was sitting, the way he sit was not properly, and the boy was brought back home and taken to the hospital. They found that he has been used by that same man.
Some of the residents blame the increasing cases of defilement and incest on drug abuse and alcoholism.
That one is caused by mothers going away and living there. Their children, their daughters, at that risk. Because when fathers may be taking in something small, when they come back, they fail to differentiate between their wife and their daughters. So they end up using their own daughter.
To me personally, what makes these crimes to be committed, like sexual violence, when parents neglect children, and these children have they are given enough space to do whatever they feel they have to do. They go in dance halls.
The 2020 police crime report clearly shows that all children, regardless of their gender, require most care and protection, not only from their biological parents, but the general public as well. Adiana Kute, UBC.
Issues to do with child abuse, especially sexual harassment. Moving on, government of Uganda is to consider banning of imported foods used to feed refugees who are inhabited in Uganda by the World Food Programme. Minister for Relief, Disaster Preparedness and Refugees, Hilary Onek, says that Uganda has more and high-quality food which can feed all the refugees in the country, thereby urging the World Food Programme and other agencies to support the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda initiative in the endeavors to support the refugees.
The trees that are going to be planted are for various purposes. And where we are planting these trees, as I mentioned to you, are carefully selected. They are trees that are going to go for restoration purposes, and these will put in the degraded forest reserves and the fragile ecosystems, and this will mainly be the indigenous species. They are trees that will be grown for the commercial value. They can be fruit trees, they can be trees for timber purposes, and there are also trees that are purely going to be ornamental.
I've learned some interesting things of late about the deforestation in Uganda. I understand that the rate is around 2% annually, with around 122,000 hectares being lost every year. But I'm glad that the Roots campaign, with its ambitious targets of 200 million trees in the next 5 years, should at least go a long way in addressing that wrong.
Thank you so much. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we thank you so much for watching. That is our story about Minister of Water and Environment who allowed corporate entities for collaborating with government in the ongoing running out of trees Roots campaign. The campaign is called the Roots, but we ran a story of fathers who have ended up sexually abusing their children. Let us take you back to our story where government of Uganda may consider to ban importation of foodstuff from outside Uganda to feed refugees who are again inhabited in Uganda.
I want to totally disagree with you. All these Ugandans you see, including me, tall as I am, I'm eating our food here. I haven't died. These people are coming to our country. Do we have to import food to feed them when we have our own food? If they don't want to eat our food, let them go where the other food is.
Minister for Relief, Disaster Preparedness and Refugees, Hilary Onek, is to put into consideration the banning and importation of food used to feed refugees in the country by World Food Programme. In his defense, Mr. Onek says the country is well off in agriculture and capable of producing good quality food to feed the refugees.
I will discuss this with my cabinet colleagues, and we are going to cause no procurement of food from outside Uganda by the World Food Programme. Let the money remain here. Our farmers have, there are a lot of food around here. Cereals are there, and so I don't see the reason why the Kenyans, our farmers smuggle food like maize and so on to Kenya, and Kenya process, then the World Food Programme goes and buy from Kenya and bring it back to Uganda. Why do you do that?
The UN Resident Coordinator, Rosa Malango, attributes importation of food by the UN World Food Programme to research carried out by the organization that indicates poor harvest handling by Ugandan farmers.
So we launched the country dialogues on food systems in Uganda last Friday. One of the issues to tackle there, Honorable Minister, is the issue of the poor quality of post-harvest handling. This is the only reason why, despite investing for several years, we have not been able to purchase locally in Uganda.
If you think quality is not good, you bring equipment to test the food here locally. So I think I don't accept this excuse of quality. Our quality is excellent, and that's what has fed us, and we have grown up to now. Thank you.
So it's not that we're not buying. We're buying, but we're not maybe buying at the scale that you would want. Just to reiterate, just this past week, we launched a program in Karamoja called Karamoja Feeds Karamoja.
Meanwhile, the government of Japan has contributed 36 billion shillings to Uganda through 8 agencies in supporting refugees. The contribution is to mitigate impacts of COVID-19 on refugees, promote their livelihood and healthcare, among others.
This year, the government of Japan decided to make another contribution of approximately 9.8 million US dollars, which is approximately 36 billion Uganda shillings. Therefore, the 2021 contribution has been made with a specific focus on mitigating the impacts of the COVID-19 to the vulnerable population, including refugees, host community members, women and children in Uganda.
Having already a big number of refugees in the country, the government of Uganda is currently not registering more refugees, although they still show up in different refugee settlements. Lydia Chomkama, UBC News.
Of State for Primary Health Care, Dr. Joyce Moriko Kadojo, has warned Ugandans against negative effects of the current heavy rains, saying this could cause hazards. She appealed to all Ugandans to observe good sanitation and hygiene, among other measures, to avoid whatever could come with the rains.
Conference is basically to inform the public about the ongoing heavy rainfalls in the various parts of the country. And this rainfall has got a negative effects. The negative effects of the rainfall are likely to cause health hazards that will in turn affect our households. The incident, ladies and gentlemen, of infectious and non-infectious diseases such as malaria, cholera, asthma, typhoid fever, bilharzia, dysentery, and acute respiratory infections will certainly rise as a result of this heavy rainfall. This scenario will eventually lead to increased demand for healthcare services at the various health facilities. Currently, ladies and gentlemen, there are no ongoing outbreak of cholera. We do not have any outbreak of malaria, typhoid. However, given the heavy rainfalls and the floods in some parts of the country, some communities stand at risk of these outbreaks, which is occurring extremely high. The government of Uganda has made significant improvement in the fight against malaria, as we all know, in the last decade. The malaria prevalence has significantly reduced, way back from 42% in 2009, we moved to 19% in 2014, and currently the prevalence of malaria stands at 9.2%. And this is informed by malaria indicator survey that was done in 2018-2019. Ladies and gentlemen, government has equally made significant reduction in the prevalence of diarrhea cases. We've made a lot of reduction in pneumonia cases, as well as dysentery and cholera cases. 12 cholera hotspot districts in Uganda, and these districts include Kasese, Ntoroko, Busia, Nebi, Pakwach, Zombo, Bulisa, Hoima, and Chikube districts. To prevent cholera in these districts, wash interventions, that is sanitation and hygiene interventions, are supplemented with oral cholera vaccine campaign. It is working closely with implementing partners, and we are calling upon the local governments, central governments, and other key stakeholders and our development interventions to prevent the preventable diseases, to put in place measures to prevent disease outbreaks. For the local governments, key government sectors and development partners, we are requesting and appealing for, one, to intensify health education on cholera prevention with a focus on hygiene improvement, with emphasis on hand washing with water and soap.
Yes, Honorable Minister Joyce Moriku Kadocho. Uganda Wildlife Authority has disclosed and taken over full charge of the Ziwa Rhino Sanctuary following persistent misunderstandings between Rhino Fund Uganda and wildlife ranchers, the owners of the land where the rhinos are being bred. According to the Public Relations Officer of the Uganda Wildlife Authority, this is being done to secure the rhinos at the sanctuary, as Jen Yuramjisha reports in this one.
Following persistent misunderstandings over management of Ziwa Rhino Sanctuary, Uganda Wildlife Authority (UWA) has effective Tuesday closed the sanctuary and taken over full control. Uganda Wildlife Authority Public Relations Officer Bashir Hanji says this has been done in order to secure the life of the rhinos at the sanctuary.
This is a phased approach. We started by mediating the two parties. When we realized that the conflicts were persistent, we went in and secured the rhinos first. Now we realize that still the conflicts are persistent. We have taken over, we are in full control, we have closed the sanctuary. It's not accessible.
Recent and past efforts to mediate between the warring parties, including President Museveni's intervention, bore no positive outcome.
Now, these two have had issues. The landowner at some point was complaining that he's denied access to his land. And at some point, the landowner felt that the people who are managing the rhinos, they had put up other facilities which were not part of the initial agreement. Now, as a result of these disagreements, even the president got involved in the discussions between the two parties. But every time the two parties sit on the table, what they agree on, when they go back, you hear this one are choosing the other of going against the agreed position.
All business at the sanctuary, including tourist visits, has been closed until further notice.
We have suspended all business activities in the sanctuary until further notice.
Mr. Bashir says that if the parties fail to come to a mutual agreement, the government will consider introducing the rhinos into the wild.
Now, what next? The next thing is to plan to take the rhinos into the wild in one of the parks. That's the direction we should be taking. That is if these parties don't reach an agreement.
Our efforts to speak to both Rhino Fund Uganda and wildlife ranchers, the two parties in the sanctuary storm, were futile as both failed to respond to our repeated calls. At the time of its closure, Ziwa Rhino Sanctuary had 33 rhinos, something conservationists say is one of the most successful breeding projects on the continent. Jane Yiramjisha, reporting for UBC News.
With Jen Yiramjisha's story, we take a very short break. Keep it with us. We have more on return.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Prosper with Airtel Money today. Become an Airtel Money agent. Apply or register today as an Airtel Money agent free of charge, or call us on 0800 327 327 toll free. Submit your business documents to be verified by Airtel Uganda free of charge. Feedback will be communicated within a maximum of 5 working days. The Airtel team will be in touch with you for the next business steps, still at no cost. Inquiries, applications or registrations and verification are all free of charge. To register or know more, call us today on 0800 327 327 toll free. Airtel, the smartphone network.
The day the world stopped was the day we found where to go. From now on, we are not going to leave anything on our plates, because we've learned to savor the moments that were always there, and they never tasted this good.
That's their way of stopping HIV. What about you?
Experience 100% 4G speeds across Uganda with the Airtel 4G Pocket Wi-Fi available at 123,000 shillings only. It comes with a backup battery and 15 GB free for 1 month. Visit the nearest Airtel shop, device selling shop, or Airtel online shop. www.airtel.co.ug/broadband-discover. Airtel, the smartphone network.
The day the world stopped was the day we found where to go. From now on, we are not going to leave anything on our plates, because we've learned to savor the moments that were always there, and they never tasted this good.
Welcome back from the break. It's UBC Lunchtime News. In business news, government recently acquired a multi-billion skills development loan from the World Bank with the aim of improving employable skills amongst Ugandans. The funds were channeled through the private sector foundation Uganda and were meant to reach to all corners of the country. State Minister for Investment, Evelyn Anite, says that the project has reached more than 80,000 Ugandans so far. She was touring Steel and Tube and Safeway, which trains Ugandans to acquire defensive driving skills.
You know very well during the night, that's when there is off-peak.
During the what?
During night. We have the lower tariff from midnight to 6, electricity. So now we are not enjoying that fully because people, they cannot move.
Okay.
People, they cannot move. We're having a problem. Those we manage to accommodate, it's a big cost.
We believe that you're skilling more, giving opportunities. Listening to their testimonies, I was very touched. And it only made me to feel more inspired that we give more money to private sector foundation to do more of such trainings. Because young people, when they go into schools, they oftentimes do not know what they will become. Like the young girl there said, I did not hope that I would see this machine. What did you call it? Spectrometer. Yeah. She didn't hope to see it. So you really were like, God sent, you're her Moses. She's like, wow, this actually happens. So she saw it.
Honorable Minister, I'm celebrating a partnership. And I'm celebrating the commitment of these 150 distinguished Ugandans that have come through, because we have been told previously that 90% of the trucks here are actually driven by Kenyans or Tanzanians, and we did not have the skills to do this. We are now beginning to break this stigma. Ugandans can be trained, and Ugandans can use these roads responsibly. But remember, those of you that are going to graduate, 80 to 90% of the accidents or the statistics that we have skimmed through here are coming as a result of human error.
As government of Uganda, we are going to continue supporting the private sector, because the private sector foundation, led by my good friend Badagawa, has proved to us that yes, they are not corrupt, and they do the work, and indeed they will show their results. Thank you very much. Thank you, young lady there who just spoke very passionately and made it very clear. Now you should all know, and from her, not coming from me, that the 1 billion that you got as money to enable you to get this training was given by the NRM government. I said NRM government, under the leadership of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. I don't know how you voted, but you should feel guilty. If you voted wisely, clap for yourselves. Okay. The claps are many, meaning that they voted wisely. Thank you.
UBC Lunchtime News. The Commissioner, Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Dr. Oporoti Henry, wants the re-establishment of diploma and certificate in agriculture if the country is to assist farmers in the rural areas. Dr. Oporoti says that the country is experiencing inadequate extension services due to inadequacy in the number of staff, calling on schools that teach agriculture to put in more effort in teaching low-level extensional workers. The Commissioner was officiating at Mackay University College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences monthly policy seminar series.
Extension workers are very thin on the ground, and in Onura, the commercial farmer, if indeed well established, can hire trained extension staff. The government staff will help the commercial farmer in terms of identifying the suitable skill that he can engage in that farm. But they also we are serving all farmers. We are serving all farmers. That when it comes to, it looks like in education, government is focusing on universal primary education, universal secondary education. But those who are capable go to private institutions. But government focus on serving the underprivileged. So this time around, for the extension workers, the public ones, they are focused on helping the small-scale farmer, but also pay attention to the commercial farmers when they need. And of course, a commercial farmer will demand the services of an extension worker. So we focus on all farmers, but big emphasis on the small-scale farmer who is supposed to be supported to transform into a commercial farmer.
It's a MAC RIF, that is Rural Innovation Fund project that is funded to help bridge the gap between policymakers, academicians, and researchers. So basically what this project does, it provides a platform where we have all researchers that have some output to give to the policymakers, come and make a presentation to the audience that is composed of different researchers, policy advisors, policymakers, students, etc. So the researcher basically gives an overview of what their work was about and what are the research implications, what are the policy implications of their research, so that hopefully the policymakers are able to make policies that are evidence-based. So some of the objectives really of the project are to ensure that it provides a platform for these kinds of meetings, and we do it once a month, okay? And we're hoping that soon. And another objective of the project is to ensure there's capacity building among the graduate students, in which we train the graduate students on how to produce policy briefs and executive summaries that speak to policymakers, that policymakers can easily use to be able to make their policies.
On the international scene, former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty of 2 counts of murder and 1 count of manslaughter over the death of George Floyd. The judge presiding over the high-profile trial announced Tuesday, reading the jury's verdict. Right after Judge Peter announced the verdict, which came after the 12-member jury was questioned Monday afternoon and deliberated for about 10 hours. Chauvin, who listened in the courtroom, was handcuffed and taken into custody by the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. The jurors found Chauvin, a white man, guilty of second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. All 3 counts he was charged with over killing the black man Floyd. Chauvin pleaded not guilty to all of the charges. He could face presumptive prison sentences, 12.5 years for the second-degree murder, 12.5 years for the third-degree murder charge, and 4 years for the second-degree manslaughter charge, according to Minnesota sentencing guidelines. Since Chauvin has no previous criminal record, he could avoid the maximum sentence for each of the 3 charges, which is 40 years for second-degree murder, 25 years for third-degree murder, and 10 years for second-degree manslaughter. Prosecutors, though, said they will seek a harsher punishment. And that brings us to the end of today's UBC Lunchtime News. My name is Michael Jordan Lukumwa. Thank you so much for watching. We'll have more news your way in the evening, Kiswahili, Luganda, and English. For now, enjoy the next program. Bye-bye.